wife. What
Do as
a
thou with.
do as you are wide. And we're doing this again.
You want a quarter?
I will take a quarter. Thank you. It's Friday, wife.
That must be why nobody's watching. I couldn't have anything to do with us. They're too busy out being social.
Or masturbating.
Or wearing a mask on a subway. Coming home from work.
Wearing a
From
mask.
Whack Arnold's.
Wearing a mask in the car while they're by themselves. Because you gotta protect yourself against the fucking Ronies. You smell something, wife?
Yeah, I smell cat pee. I don't know if it's... Every time that window's open, I smell it, but a cat never went outside and peed. And maybe it's because he lies around in his own piss. And now it's everywhere.
Lazy,
It's in my hair.
lazy piss-soaked cat getting in my hair. Ooh, drugs. Oh.
So, did you turn the volume down for...
Uh-huh.
Look how wet my butt is. Like I just came out of a swimming pool with soap.
There's really fast-flowing swimming pool where you stand up. It says swim.
And I'm uncomfortable and not having fun, and there's no sun, and I can control the temperature.
The lifeguard's still the same, though.
Still looking at me naked and ashamed.
Listen, I'm the lifeguard. And I wasn't ashamed.
So, do you want to talk about this article that you wanted thinking about?
Yeah. I'll have to take a drink of this,
If you must.
I must.
Do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt.
I'm wilted. Wilfeding. Okay. Listen to this craziness. This is from the New York Post. People who trust their gut are suckers for bullshit conspiracy theories, says scientists. If you trust your gut when deciding if a statement is true or false, maybe that's just because lizard aliens are running the country. Research into what makes a person accept new information as true or false has revealed that facts and reality are rather slippery concepts.
What?
In a pair of new studies, behavioral scientists investigate the relationship between truth relativism.
Get fucked.
Yeah. The concept that truth and reality are different to different people.
Oh my god. So, don't believe fucking conspiracies, but believe this bullshit.
Believe these fucking and the risk of falling victim to false information.
I think I'm falling victim to it right now.
I think many people who emphasize a more relativistic view of what truth is mean well. Julia Aspernass, PhD student in the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Learning and Linköping University in Sweden, said in a statement.
Well, the same person that vilified PewDiePie because he fucking dropped an N-bomb once or twice on a bridge.
And rightfully so.
He said, I'm sorry, but you are one. Why don't you try understanding him instead of trying to control his fucking language?
Yeah, trying to ruin the guy's fucking livelihood.
Well, to be fair, his livelihood pisses me off. I would love to fucking ruin it, but...
They believe that it's important that everyone should be able to make their voice heard, but these results show that such a view can actually be quite dangerous.
Oh, with the fucking actually.
Actually, and is dangerous.
Can we just write the New York Post and tell them what a piece of shit they are for having this printed? Is this part of, like, the AP News or whatever? You know how...
Associated Press.
Yeah.
No, this is theirs. This was written by Mark.
And what makes that guy so much better than everybody else with the bullshit that I'm hearing right now?
Nothing. Not a goddamn fucking thing.
So, if truth is relative, why are conspiracies bad? Or conspiracy theories? Trust the science because their true relativism is better than everybody else's?
Because the scientists exist outside of relativism. Who the fuck knows? The study found that there are two types of truth relativism. One called cultural relativism, in which the beliefs held by a culture or group of people must be true, because everyone in the group believes them.
What? If everybody believes that O'Brien can fly, then O'Brien can fly?
It's part of their culture.
Oh my god, culture is the worst. Kill culture.
The other is called subjective relativism, in which individuals are convinced that whatever they personally feel to be true must therefore be the truth.
Why is there a difference between cultural truth and individual truth?
And this is not, whatever somebody believes and you're part of that, so you believe it. The research team surveyed about 1,400 people in Sweden and the UK about their views on what truth is. Then they
asking idiots what the truth is isn't gonna. So you're smart because you take the word of a bunch of dumb people and collect and put it in a chart? That's what makes you better than them?
So I feel like this needs like a full length destruction, and
yes, it does.
Fucking.
Well, what the destruction is just the video we made. The truth that exists outside of you, regardless of who knows it
outside your culture, whether you believe gravity is real or not. Every time you throw your car keys up in the air, they're gonna fall down.
That's buoyancy, you see.
That's buoyancy. At some point, the buoyancy could increase, I guess, and then we could shoot off into the atmosphere.
This is why language is more important or vocal language is more important than body language. We got the body language down, so much so that we fake it now. So and now we fake language. I don't know if we've ever not faked language. It's all just been... Language has been relative to the person or culture or whatever, but there can be universal language because we all have a yes and we all have a no. We all have a smiley face and we all have a frowny face.
I think we've all agreed on what the fuck water is. So,
except Flint. And
wait,
Nestle.
Hold on. Water doesn't have lead in it.
Not from what I heard. Not from what the ocean said. But the ocean also has mercury and plastic. Hey, eat shit. Loud idiots.
Yeah.
So that sucks. What a sign of the time. Makes me want to cry. I don't want to be the only person that knows what the truth is. Not what it is specifically, but what truth means.
How to find it. What the implications of the truth are.
The truth is only one thing, and it doesn't matter your fucking culture, and it doesn't matter anything else because a pattern needs to emerge.
Yeah.
And you can't emerge, no pattern can't emerge. There's one for South Africa. There's one for Chechnya. There's one for, no. This isn't a fucking quilt.
Yeah, the human truth quilt.
Oh, God. Oh, just continue. I'm gonna cry here silently.
So I think that kind of gives us a direction. But as for today,
so how 1984 are those fucking statements?
Massive.
So is it true that O'Brien can fly because he forced Winston to believe he can fly?
I think according to that would be that cultural...
Every culture is dominated by the individuals that dominate it, and chances are if you dominate, you're bad.
Yeah.
There hasn't been, I don't think, any instance yet where good wins over bad consistently, so that
it develops a pattern.
Yeah, its power is more, well, what is that? Not entrenched, more concrete.
I can't think of an instance.
Nope.
Oh, but I'm sure someone will argue, oh, things are going so well, it's the best time to be alive.
Yeah, that's why evil is so prevalent, right? Because everybody forgets that there are child abductors and diddlers.
Murderers.
If I ain't thinking about it, it ain't happening.
Oh yeah, if it's not in my brain, then it ain't real.
That's truth relativism. Whatever fucking SJW bullshit word they try to use.
It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. I want to go jump in the shower now, wife.
I want to smoke 8 cigarettes. What strength, mental strength, or is it possible for someone to bash their own head in with a hammer? Like, when does your body just force you to stop, if at all?
I'm not sure. I
have
have not done enough.
Someday.
Oh God, wife, no. Can we bash other people with a hammer?
No, especially now while we're fucking live streaming. Any excuse to drown out the truth. Oh, they made a joke. Time to die. Time to take their children. Time to poison their well. Who are you calling for?
Socrates.
You got a girlfriend out there? Or you're just a pussy interruptus?
Fucking pussy interruptus.
Alright, what are we doing next?
Alright. We're gonna start reading some 1984.
Okay.
We managed to get done with chapter 2, which means we're on number 3. If numbers exist outside ourselves and go in a sequential order like we think they do.
If truth can be relative, and also the truth, are numbers fucking relative to these people?
It must be. There could be no foundation of...
So why not, why have, like, kingdom, phylum, genus, species, whatever? Let's just say everything is a thing. And it's whatever word we say it is, and it's described however we want. 4-legged things can have 2 legs. Fuck it, who cares?
Oh, somebody... The scientist said that is bullshit, so... It doesn't matter if you can see that the cat has 4 legs.
Did you not turn... I don't think you turned the music down.
It was up here, wife. It goes to max and then...
I thought you put it at, like... I don't know, lower than that?
I can make it a little lower, baby. But our past couple, it's been... I did it at, like, minus 21 dB.
If you say so, I'm not the boss here. What do I know?
Alright. Chapter 3. Winston was dreaming of his mother. He must, he thought, have been 10 or 11 years old when his mother had disappeared.
Wait, how did this start? He was thinking of O'Brien and now he's thinking of his mother?
He was... he started writing in the journal again. The book.
Okay. Hey, we're talking. You had plenty of time to talk.
The whole day. He must, he thought, have been 10 or 11 years old when his mother had disappeared. She was a tall, statuesque, rather silent woman with slow movements and magnificent fair hair. His father, he remembered more vaguely as dark and thin, dressed always in neat dark clothes. Winston remembered especially the very thin soles of his father's shoes, and wearing spectacles. The two of them must evidently have been swallowed up in one of the first great purges of the 50s. He must, but he doesn't remember. There's all sorts of things so far he hasn't.
He doesn't, probably wouldn't even know. They didn't advertise it on the local news.
But
we'll be purging all the dissidents today.
He remembers them
Bring your parents.
disappearing, but he doesn't remember the act. There's his own experiences, his own memory have been taken from him through this ridiculous system of erasing the past, controlling the present, listening to the party, aka the culture, for the truth.
My God. My God.
My God.
Culture.
Culture is the worst thing that people have probably ever invented.
I mean, it's...
He's fucking cat.
Oh, yay, Commando Kitty. Why don't you clean yourself instead of playing on our stuff?
Instead of climbing the dang old curtains.
I'm gonna get some wipes for you, little boy. If you don't start taking care of your own damn hygiene. So that's a weird thing to say, though, that culture is the worst thing ever invented. Because culture was gonna be inevitable, because culture is just the shit people like.
So, ideally, if we had our way, would we have a culture of truth?
Ideally, people wouldn't have to... They would be too smart to use that word.
Okay.
They would just like things and not hate other people for liking different things.
Yeah, I like...
Everything would be in good sport instead of spiteful and greedy and childish.
I like the way you make that kimchi.
That's not how the original people do it. So it's not as good. Well, the Russian versus the Swedes or whatever. Like, we're the first ones to make vodka. It's part of our culture. It's like, who gives a shit? How many places did people fucking ferment and distill to make stuff? Fuck off. Who cares? And
rushing to prove something you can't fucking prove.
Russian also to prove that you're a piece of shit, because in Russia, didn't they have like a whole bunch, like the oligarchs had control of the booze, kind of like Victory Gin, except more people instead of just one person?
Yeah, they had the oligarchs are the ones who had the licenses. They were the only ones who were allowed to make the stuff.
And they used it to control people, and now there's a whole country of fucking drunk, depressed people.
It was part of their culture to just be shit-facing the street.
Yeah, part of your culture to have to pray to Steven Seagal 6 times a day.
That fucking fatso.
Fat slob.
With his little weak baby wrists.
And his raping intentions.
That little documentary thing, that was interesting. Fucking Steven Seagal. Oh man, I would have paid to see Jean-Claude fucking beat him up.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I would pay $100 for Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal to do any sort of fight they want. They could slap fight for all I care.
Ooh. Oh, celebrity slap fight.
Yeah, $100. That is my bid.
Oh, you get $100 for every slap you can withstand.
What? Who gets that $100? I'm just saying that's what I'd pay for the code to get in the website.
We could run it ourselves. Everybody show up.
But yeah, how are we gonna get Steven Seagal to show up? He's such a bitch.
Tell him Putin's here.
Like, he sleeps in his bed. He's gonna know.
That may not be the truth.
They say goodnight to each other on fucking FaceTime.
I
love you, Putin.
He took his special Putin train all the way here.
That's the same gas I use in my locomotive.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He's gonna expose me to the whole world, the nakedness. Play with something else right now. You gotta climb it. Everybody's gotta start making noise when they're not getting attention. Did we raise a bunch of animal children? I feel like that's crazy. We couldn't have I mean, Craven's still a child, but... Speaking of which, where's the dog?
Outside, wife.
Oh, you think she's doing okay?
Yeah, on the front porch.
Okay.
I'm gonna go check on her in a few.
Okay.
At the moment, his mother was sitting in some place deep down beneath him, with his young sister in her arms. He did not remember his sister at all, except as a tiny, feeble baby, always silent, with large, watchful eyes. Both of them were looking up at him. They were down in some subterranean place, the bottom of a well, for instance, or a very deep grave. But it was a place which, already far below him, was itself moving downwards. They were in the saloon of a sinking ship, looking up at him through the darkening water. There was still air in the saloon. They could still see him, and he them. But all the while they were sinking down into the green waters, which in another moment must hide them from sight forever. He was out in the light and air while they were being sucked down to death. They were down there because he was up there. He knew it, and they knew it, and he could see the knowledge in their faces. There was no reproach either in their faces or in their hearts. Only the knowledge that they must die in order that he might remain alive, and that his part of the unavoidable order of things.
Unavoidable order of things is putting together again, order of man, order of the universe. The order of man and the order of the universe isn't the same. You remember further on in the story where Winston takes everybody's ration of chocolate all for himself and runs away?
No.
Oh, well, I guess if I can remember it, then I'll say it then.
Go ahead and spend. Maybe there's another part that I do remember. So Winston takes the chocolate, everybody's chocolate.
I was just wondering if it's telling to the mind of a child, and that's why children are used against their parents and stuff, because the government could just easily convince them that they want something and that they'll turn against their family to get it.
Maybe. We were talking about, manipulation of stuff. The unavoidable or easily avoidable.
Yeah. It wasn't so avoidable then, but it's avoidable now. Just takes some work.
It is simply avoidable.
Yeah.
Easy.
Because
easy is different.
the reason that it's so simply avoidable is because it's all a game meant to entrap children. And everybody is acting like a child. Everybody has the mentality right now of a child.
And that's why they're trapped.
If you need someone to take care of you, or if you desire someone to take care of you, outside of your family, once in a while, I like getting my back scrubbed and, all that stuff. Scrubbing my booty hole. But that's a thing between family. I like when you make me dinner. But to expect that someone has your best interest in mind and is gonna be making sure that all of your needs are getting taken care of, and if not, you're gonna cry, that's kind of the difference between... No, hold on. I lost myself. That's the mentality of a child. And I don't know how it works. We're going to find out here soon. But I know that it's different because we actively choose to get away from that system. And people actively decide to, oh, how come YouTube can't fix this problem for me? You know?
Why aren't we banning people? Why do they get to...
Yeah, why don't we make this illegal? There's not a consensus that is desired. There's
just a desire for
whatever
being taken care of.
Fuck they want. I want what I want.
Yeah, and fuck everybody else.
And there's a difference between people like that and people who are not like that. And people who are not like that want different things. And it's easy to be Trevor Moore self-sufficient.
Yeah.
That way. And the reason nobody's self-sufficient because they're all, I gotta get rid of my farmland and move to the city and started my acting career and suck dick like James Dean.
Marlon Brando.
Just reducing everything to this level of destruction that they can't tell because all they want is their security blanket. You know how I know you're gay? Because you got a dick in your mouth.
Oh. It's observable. I see that, pee-pee. He could not remember what had happened, but he knew in his dream that some way the lives of his mother and his sister had been sacrificed to his own. It was one of those dreams which, while retaining the characteristic dream scenery, are a continuation of one's intellectual life, and in which one becomes aware of facts and ideas which still seem new and valuable after one is awake. The thing that now suddenly struck Winston was that his mother's death, nearly 30 years ago, had been tragic and sorrowful in a way that was no longer possible.
That was no longer possible?
That now is no longer possible.
Because people don't get the chance to mourn?
Yeah.
Maybe? People just his mother disappeared though, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But funerals, I bet no funerals happen in 1984. People just disappear.
Just die. And then records get erased. Someone say, oh, there wasn't an accident here.
It shows that the individual doesn't matter. No matter how small or large. Only Big Brother matters.
Only Big Brother. Only the party. Only the culture. Only your blue hair.
Oh yeah,
only your red
only
hat.
Defined by your culture. Jesus Christ. The truth is only defined. I think that news article almost makes it seem like the switch to 1984 is deliberate. But I really think maybe it's just the stupidity and the infantilization of people to a point where they don't even understand. Dr. Derek doesn't think that he's a child. He thinks all those people in diapers on Second Life are children. But he's looking for YouTube to fix problems. We know that we could get banned at any moment. This isn't fair. Of course it's not fair. Nothing's fucking fair. But I'm not gonna bitch to the person who made it unfair because they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Ooh, so hot. Okay.
Where do we go? It's no longer possible. Tragedy, he perceived, belonged to the ancient time. A time where there was still privacy, love, friendship, and when the members of a family stood by one another without needing to know the reason. I watched a documentary once.
somebody was filming someone in North Korea. It was this family, and their child were going through some sort of age culture thing there, where they go from like the tiny scouts, little babies, to like a more militant child kind of thing, and the kid was meant to. I'm talking, Socrates. Do you have something to say in English? The child was meant to be happy. Oh, look, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And she just kept crying. She didn't know why. I think she said, I don't know why. Because the filmmaker was like, why are you crying? She's like, I don't know. So does that mean that people in 1984, they just don't have that feeling of tragedy in their souls?
Maybe they do, but because all the shit around them is so overbearing that they have to bury it and replace it with Big Brother. So when they feel that sense of tragedy, it turns to anger and fuck Eurasia, or it turns
even for like a 3-4-year-old. Or do they just unperson the child?
Unperson a child would be my guess. That killing a kid. I mean, they were showing films of it, blowing them up. So there's no value in children.
Yeah. Okay, wifus interruptus.
His mother's memory tore at his heart because she had died loving him when he was too young and selfish to love her in return, and because somehow he did not remember how she had sacrificed herself to a conception of loyalty that was private and unalterable. Such things, he saw, could not happen today. Today, there were fear, hatred, and pain, but no dignity of emotion, or deep or complex sorrows. All this he seemed to see in the large eyes of his mother and his sister, looking up at him through the green water, hundreds of fathoms down and still sinking.
There seems to be a problem with emotions and government. I don't think people are really allowed to have emotions when it comes to anything. You're always told to calm down. You're not. There's no time to explore emotions when you do a thing, and then there's no time to explore emotions after you've done the thing and you're being persecuted because of it.
You are punished for having emotions. Emotions that aren't approved by someone. But your feelings are part of yourself. That's how the culture and things. So I like this. I don't like this. There are feelings of I don't like this, so I don't want to be associated with it.
Hate doesn't seem to be an emotion to people. They just think that the hate and the anger is just some sort of deserving response to something that isn't liked.
That's how you discern or something.
If it makes me angry, it's good.
Yeah, I took a bite of Twinkie. I fucking hate goddamn Twinkies. Let's get them shut down. Whoa, you could just not have Twinkies.
That's how laws are made, just in reaction to people's anger. And usually arbitrary anger.
Oh, all the what was those? All the obscenity laws? Which president lady started that shenanigans? I don't know if you remember. We were watching
like
some video.
Reagan or some shit.
Yeah, now all things are rated, and Some people get the 18 plus thing on YouTube. You can't watch Power Rangers. That's only for 7-year-olds.
They don't see how this shit started. They don't care. They don't care that...
They're swimming in shit.
Well, not just that, but...
But there's an origin.
The heat is, like, really causing me issue. That people did things to try to get away with things. They didn't do things to sell a good product. They didn't. That's not how industry in the 20th century started or continued.
Yeah.
They always wanted to cross the line of not good behavior. To say something has lots of calcium and it doesn't is a lie and can cost people their lives, and thus it is not good. So you have to have laws that say, oh, you gotta do all these checks, and you gotta do this, and you gotta do that, and fucking blah, 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 blah. Until we get to a point where everybody's the enemy until proven otherwise. And to prove it, you only need a label that says FDA approved.
Party
FDA
approved.
don't know shit. Party approved. Fucking GMO verified. No, it's not. How many times have we seen that there is genetically modified things in food with a GMO-free label?
Yeah. Yeah, a fair number of the Chinese food, or the Asian
Frozen meal things?
I was thinking like all the condiments and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever ingredients that.
How do you add GMO free, but there's
It's not
all that modified cornstarch?
Yeah.
The thing that I'm looking out to avoid.
Yeah, it used to be you could look at the sticker and no. But now, that sticker don't mean anything. It's got...
And nothing is clear. Nobody says what this shit means. So if it says modified, citric acid, does that mean that every time it doesn't say modified citric acid, it's not modified citric acid? Who knows? Because you got till 2035 to fucking blah, 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 blah. And it's confusion for confusion's sake.
And profit's sake.
And the emotions don't matter. Oh, you're overreacting. We're doing the best we can. I can assure you, you're fucking not.
Worrying about being poisoned or somehow is looked down upon, but you don't care to that.
But somebody the environment? You don't care about the seagulls in the ocean?
You're not buying a Tesla. You don't care about the environment.
Fucking hypocritical, contradictory bullshit. Everything and everyone who falls for it is part of the fucking problem.
Yeah, and that thing that guy said the other day that where's the love? You're being hypocritical. I just keep.
You don't know what fucking love looks like.
Be worthy of it.
Yeah, be worthy of it first. You'll know when I give you love, because you'll say, holy shit, what is this feeling in my heart and penis?
Suddenly, he was standing on short, springy turf on a summer evening when the slant rays of the sun gilded the ground. The landscape that he was looking at recurred so often in his dreams that he was never fully certain whether or not he had seen it in the real world.
Great, the way that O'Brien will frickin' manipulate him.
Mm-hmm. In his waking thoughts, he called it the Golden Country. It was an old, rabbit-bitten pasture, with a foot track wandering across it and a molehill here and there. In the ragged hedge, on the opposite side of the field, the boughs of the elm trees were swaying very faintly in the breeze, their leaves just stirring in dense masses like women's hair. Does he hate that too? Because he hates the women's. Fucking trees! Blowing like women's hair.
The ones that won't give him any pussy.
That's a clip we could use too. Somebody starts complaining, I'm not getting any pussy. Somewhere near at hand, though out of sight, there was a clear, slow-moving stream where Dace was swimming in the pools under the willow trees.
Those are fish, right?
I'm not sure what a dace is, but I'm going to guess it's swimming.
I thought you told me a dace is a fish. Alright, never mind.
Maybe we looked it up last time, because...
Are we gonna look it up right now?
Yeah, what is dace? It's like dice, but different. A small fish. That could be one of many species.
What is an unmodified name?
Let me see a picture. What's a picture?
Oh, they're in cans. That's where we know fish from.
Oh, they're like little shads, little... Okay. Minnowy type things. Little fish that are usually eaten by bigger fish.
Okay.
Alright. So now we know. Genital slower trans was the day swimming through. The girl with dark hair was coming toward him across the field. With what seemed a single movement, she tore off her clothes and flung them disdainfully aside. Her body was white and smooth, but it aroused no desire in him.
So do they not jerk off in this world too?
I would
Probably
guess so.
not. The telescreen.
Watching.
Oh, so you have to have kids being watched too.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking.
What's the party rules on butt stuff? All you people out there with your freaky kinks, gonna go away.
You gotta sign a petition or some shit. Go to the Ministry of Truth and get your special badge to have butt sex for the night. Expires before you even get a hold of it.
What you're really saying is Big Brother can come in and butt fuck you and your wife. That's what you sign up for. Her body was white and smooth, but it aroused no desire in him. Indeed, he barely looked at it.
Yeah, right, he's dreaming about it.
That he had to imagine her naked.
And that's why O'Brien can fly. That's why culture dictates truth.
What overwhelmed him in that instant was admiration for the gesture with which she had thrown her clothes aside. I don't like the lady underneath, but at least she threw them down. That was really cool. She threw it on the ground, wife.
She's an adult. Barely.
With its grace and carelessness. Contradiction, don't you think? Grace, you're careful.
Not necessarily. I think it's a girl thing.
When sometimes there was you fall on the bed a little bit. I'm like, graceful.
Yeah, well, that's not what I'm talking about. It looks graceful. Like the way I can't control the way my hair falls as I'm falling, so maybe my hair's being graceful through no fault of my own.
With its grace and carelessness, it seemed to annihilate a whole culture, a whole system of thought. As though Big Brother and the party and the thought police could all be swept into nothingness by a single splendid moment, of the arm. Weird how love could, in someone's mind who doesn't experience it, they have the idea of what love could do. So, anybody practicing love? Anybody can verify? Comment down below. Or jump in the stream.
Kill yourself.
Bring in some pussy. That too was a gesture belonging to the ancient time. Winston woke up with the word Shakespeare on his lips. Because he too wants to wear a dress. The telescreen was giving forth an ear-splitting whistle which continued on the same note for 30 seconds. It was not 7:15, getting up time for the office workers. Winston wrenched his body out of bed, naked, for a member of the outer party received only 3,000 clothing coupons annually, and a suit of pajamas was 600. Is that... Are party coupons money? Is that...
Probably.
A party coupon? There's something
it's
about
credits, just like Star Trek. We don't have money. We just dole out what you're allowed.
We have no money, but we got gold pressed platinum and credits.
Well, those are the Ferengis. That's Deep Space Nine, isn't it? The gold pressed platinum?
No, that's just I think frankly the next generation do the gold plus platinum too.
Oh, okay.
And the Federation does trade with them. So they have to give them...
The Federation, the party trades with them.
The party. Federation, commie bastards. Their Prime Directive. Oh yeah. The outer party received clothing coupons annually, and a suit of pajamas cost 600. And seized a dingy singlet and a pair of shorts that were lying across a chair. The physical jerks... That's capitalized. Would begin in 3 minutes. The
workout is called physical jerks, huh?
Physical jerks.
That sounds like an exercise that'll leave me feeling relaxed.
Yeah. What a great way to start your day with some jerks.
Just like going on Twitter.
That's a different kind of jerk. The next moment, he was doubled up by a violent coughing fit, which nearly always attacked him soon after waking up. It emptied his lungs so completely that he could only begin breathing again by lying on his back and taking a series of deep gasps. His veins had swelled with the effort of cough, and the varicose ulcer had started itching. 30 to 40 group. Yapped a piercing female voice. 30 to 40 group. Take your places, please. 30 to 40s. Winston sprang to attention in front of the telescreen, upon which the image of a youngish woman, scrawny but muscular, dressed in tunic and gym shoes, had already appeared. So, I hear tunic. I think. Roman tunic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different piece of garb than probably what he's talking about. So I envision a more Roman type soldiers in gym shoes, and everybody's about to do their morning workout.
I was thinking of like a nightgown, like a dude nightgown.
A dude nightgown.
Yeah. Or maybe a tunic is just a shirt. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a nightgown, but you wear it. It's a long shirt.
A long shirt.
From what it
definitely
like.
Covers up your wing wanglers. Almost goes to your knees. He's got a short one.
Is that Bear Grylls in a tunic?
Oh, what is this? Oh, I'm here to drink my own piss out of this snake.
Alright, nobody can see this, so let's just fucking...
Winston sprang to attention. Oh yeah, in front of the telescreen with a tunic. She had already appeared. Arms bending and stretching, she rapped out. Take your time. By me. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, comrades. Put a bit of life into it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
What
2,
life?
3, 4.
Nobody has any life to put into anything.
What reason other than the fear of death?
Yeah.
And the brainwashing of how much I love the party.
Is that the
Is
same way in
motivation.
Japan? Like, I gotta look enthused, I gotta do this like I mean it, or else I'm gonna look like a child because my boss is telling me to do it and I don't want to.
Probably that.
That sucks.
Yeah, there's mandatory, those calisthenics that, oh, it's good for you. Take a break out of your day. It's not really a break because you're making me do it. And I've seen a number of articles that say those forced workouts aren't paid. You don't get paid well to keep your job. You have to go.
If people had a language to fight against that, like, I disagree, because would they finally stop just submitting to everything? Usually when they're outspoken, they talk about unfair treatment.
Yeah.
Instead of why this is a bad thing. Why I don't want to do this. Why I think this is stupid.
Yeah, and if you know the reasons why, you can come up with the solution on how to freaking stop it. But like watching that nerdrotic stuff, and all they do is complain. Everything's wrong. Well, you don't know the reason why, so you got nowhere to go other than complain more.
They just use the same freaking words, and now China Uncensored and America Uncensored, they're doing the same shit. The woke. The go woke, go broke. Oh, the failures of the woke culture. And it's like, use your own fucking words.
You've become the thing.
You've become the thing.
Chris Chappell, do you hear me? You have become the thing. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Using those same clickbaity thing. It got me upset because it's like, they don't mean it. And I know that they use clickbaity screen titles or whatever because they're like, we want to get noticed by blah blah blah. But there was a death, and he had a face on and was pointing like, I'm like, you've hit a low.
Yeah.
But we want clicks. Fuck you. You don't deserve clicks. And
but
also,
you can do other things to do that. That one thing doesn't mean you have to stay that way. Work in the other direction. We'll click again.
They changed the title because I bitched one time. I didn't bitch. I said that this seems to provoke fear. Why aren't we provoking strength or something like or attack to
combat something?
Yeah.
To not do the thing the Chinese are doing, making people afraid.
Yeah, that's what they're. I mean, just because they're like, this is. Oh, China's hit a new low. Is China finally destroyed? Is China No, they're not. They're not even. What is gonna happen? You think a whole country is gonna go down right now? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, this one thing. Do you want to read for a second? I need to write something down.
Okay, then you want to get maybe the dog and maybe one of these?
Yeah, you got
one of
wife.
these.
One of these.
Can you show me where we are?
Right here. The
new paragraph?
The new paragraph, their wife.
The pain of the coughing fit had not quite driven out of Winston's mind the impression made by his dream, and the rhythmic movements of the exercise. I need more light.
You gotta
My
watch.
eyes are not good enough for this. And the rhythmic movements of the of the exercise restored it somewhat. I suck at this. As he mechanically shot his arms back and forth, wearing on his face the look of grim enjoyment, which was considered proper during the physical jerks, he was struggling to think his way backward into the dim period of his early childhood. Somebody's gonna need glasses. It was extraordinarily difficult. It was extraordinarily difficult. Beyond the late 50s, everything faded. When there are no external records that you could refer to, even the outline of your own life lost its sharpness. You remembered huge events which had quite probably not happened. You remembered the details of incidents without being able to recapture their atmosphere. And there were long blank periods to which you could assign nothing. Everything had been different then. Even the names of countries and their shapes on the map had been different. Airstrip 1, for instance, had not been so called in those days. It had been called England or Britain. Though London, he felt fairly certain, had always been called London. Winston could not definitely remember a time when his country had not been at war, but it was evident that there had been a fairly long interval of peace during his childhood, because one of his early memories was of an air raid which appeared to take everyone by surprise. Perhaps it was the time when the atomic bomb had fallen on Colchester. He did not remember the raid himself, but he did remember his father's hand clutching his own as they hurried down, 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 into some place deep in the earth, round and round a spiral staircase which rang under his feet, and which finally so wearied his legs that he began whimpering, and they had to stop and rest. You want this?
Sure.
His mother.
His mother, in her slow, dreamy way, was following a long way behind them. She was carrying his baby sister, or perhaps it was only a bundle of blankets that she was carrying. He was not certain whether his sister had been born then. Finally, they had emerged into a noisy, crowded place which he had realized to be a tube station. Tube was capitalized. There were people sitting all over the stone-flagged floor, and other people, packed tightly together, were sitting on metal bunks, one above the other. Winston and his mother and father found themselves in a place on the floor, and near them, an old man and an old woman were sitting side by side on a bunk.
He said something about not being able to realize the difference between memory and something that he made up. Could we go back to that part? Because I find it strange.
Like just while you were reading?
Yeah. Perhaps it was this. Perhaps it was the time. No, maybe not. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm curious what makes memories go away. Is it the forcefulness of the party replacing it with other things to do? Because we don't take pictures.
No.
We don't have like physical memories of stuff, but we can still remember the things that we do, and we still know that they happened. Maybe also having a family to share it with and recall with is part of it too, and nobody really talks about memories. There's nothing good to remember. Just an observation, sorry.
No, it's good. Makes me think. there's value in spending time in that moment doing the thing instead of taking a picture. I feel like maybe it might belong to like a similar system. I guess I got in my head. Let me think about this.
Take your time.
Well, I'm gonna have to come back. I'm gonna have to think about it. I'm having problems recalling the thing that I was just thinking about. So
Okay.
We'll just continue. The old man had on a decent dark suit and a black cloth cap, pushed back from very white hair. His face was scarlet and his eyes were blue and full of tears. He reeked of gin. It seemed to breathe out of his skin in place of sweat, and one could have fancied that the tears welling from his eyes were pure gin. But though slightly drunk, he was also suffering under some grief that was genuine and unbearable. And in his childish way, Winston grasped that some terrible thing, something that was beyond forgiveness and could never be remedied, had just happened. It also seemed to him that he knew what it was. Someone whom the old man loved, a little granddaughter perhaps, had been killed. Every few minutes the old man kept repeating, "We did not do have trusted him. I said so, Ma. Didn't I?" Well, that's kind of how it's read.
I figured. I just like the accent, that's all. It made me chuckle.
That's what I come with trusting him. Don't touch me, but that's what's come with trusting him. I said so all along. We didn't ought to have trusted them buggers. But which buggers they didn't ought to have trusted, Winston could not now remember. Since about that time, war had been literally continuous. Though strictly speaking, it had not always been the same war. For several months during his childhood, there had been confused street fighting in London itself, some of which he had remembered vividly. But to trace out the history of the whole period, to say who was fighting whom at any given moment, would have been utterly impossible. Since no written record and no spoken word ever made mention of any other alignment other than the existing one. At this moment, for example, 1984, if it was 1984, Oceania was at war with Eurasia and in alliance with East Asia. In no public or private utterance was it ever admitted that the three powers that had at any time been grouped along different lines. Actually, as Winston well knew, it was only 4 years since Oceania had been at war with East Asia and in alliance with Eurasia. But that was merely a piece of furtive knowledge which he happened to possess because his memory was not satisfactorily under control. Officially, the change of patterns had never happened. Oceania...
Officially. So that's, again, culture defining truth.
It controls his memory.
He has to be in control of his memory, which is the party's control.
Yeah.
He's still a little, or he is...
You can't remember his kids, but he remembers every party rule.
What's the rules? I thought there were.
Or yeah, those are no, but
there's still an instinctive. Don't look at each other in the eyes. Don't frown. Don't do this. Don't do that, or else thought police is gonna get me.
So it's turning into I see it. Officially,
just like WW2.
Just like WW2. Full of dog dicks. Those Zionists. Officially, the change of partners had never happened. Oceania was at war with Eurasia. Therefore, Oceania had always been at war with Eurasia. The enemy of the moment always represented absolute evil, and it followed that any past or future agreement with them was impossible. Oh, I need a drink.
I wonder if my bi-diagram, if it wasn't true, why would it be so important to control the present and the past?
Because you could just ignore it.
What can you just ignore?
The present and the past.
How do you ignore the present and the past when you exist in it? It's still, you're still gonna react to it. It's still a reaction to you.
I was trying. I couldn't figure it
Oh.
out. I was trying to do it. I couldn't. The frightening thing, he reflected for the 10,000th time as he forced his shoulders painfully backwards. With hands on hips, they were gyrating their bodies from the waist, an exercise that was supposedly good for the back muscles.
How many gallons of water did you give that fucking dog? She's been drinking for like 17 minutes. Probably just slopping on her puss.
Slop, 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 slop.
Again, please don't sit on the way home.
God, shit. The frightening thing was that it might all be true. If the party could thrust its hands into the past and say of this or that event, it never happened, that surely was more terrifying than mere torture and death.
Where does he get that contradictions are okay? He says down with Big Brother. He doesn't like it, and yet he still follows that I have to control myself. I have to control that the past is whatever the party says. Ay, ay, ay. Clean your feet. So nasty. After this, I'm gonna take a wipe to all of these animals, because I don't know why they're being such slobs.
Okay. I will assist you.
Okay.
The party said that Oceania had never been in alliance with Eurasia. He, Winston Smith, knew that Oceania had been in alliance with Eurasia a short time as 4 years ago. But where did that knowledge exist? Only in his own consciousness, which in any case must soon be annihilated. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth.
How does that differ from right now? Because it seems like it's almost like 1984 in reverse. 1948. 8,419. Because people exist in their own minds and they believe strongly that what's in their mind is the truth. It's like that part is fed instead of being fed on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their thoughts and their brains are validated by the laws that are passed to defend their inane, stupid, idiotic thoughts. It's like 1984 is being created in the minds of children now. Because they need parents, right? They didn't have parents. Nobody really has had parents, and Bob knows when.
Yeah.
So they're using the government as Big Daddy to tell them that what they're feeling is true because their paternal parents didn't assist with that at all. Because the truth exists in culture. Come on, go somewhere else then.
Let's see. Where are and if all others accepted the lie, what's the came truth? You loudmouth. Do you not like this book? Well, too bad.
Spends all day quiet, weeks quiet, and when we
yeah.
when we read, he wants to frickin' say something.
Who controls the past? Ran the party slogan. Controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. And yet the past, though of its nature alterable, had never been altered.
What do you mean of its nature alterable? It's just the perception, the nature of the past hasn't been changed.
Yeah,
Is it the author? Is it Orwell who is saying this? Or is it just the perception of Winston?
Get the Ouija board. We'll figure this out.
Because sometimes he talks as if 1984 exists outside of him, and sometimes he acts like he exists inside of 1984, or he writes like...
Yeah. His
You never really know
inside
where
and outside
he's-
the system. Is he observing or participating? He switches back and forth a lot for sure.
Unless he does think that the past naturally can be altered.
That's
But I doubt it, because that doesn't make any sense.
because you can't go back in time. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple.
Yeah, it's so simple.
All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. Reality control, they called it in newspeak. Doublethink. Stand easy, barked the instructionist a little more genially. Winston sank his arms to his side and slowly refilled his lungs with air. His mind slid away into the labyrinth world of doublethink. To know and to not know. To be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies. To hold simultaneously two options which canceled out.
Isn't that what I said that a contradiction is, when two things or two things are said that can't both be true?
Yeah.
So what a confusing world. And is it pertinent to be aware that he's thinking of this while there's an exercise going on, or is this only just a good opportunity for Orwell to talk about Winston's thoughts through Winston? Or does the exercise and having to participate in that group thing, forced group thing in your own home?
I know from my experience, if I'm certain times if I'm exercising, at least in my youth, it's a good time to be in your head. Like if you gotta
Really?
like while you gotta run or something.
How is I am always outside of my I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. I can't help it. If I've tried many times to think about other things, but I have to like disappear. And I have no inside thoughts. And I know that because I have inside thoughts when I'm not exercising. Strange
Maybe it's a guy thing.
Maybe. Well, what's the difference between men and women? Lots of things, like this. I would have to ask. I have to ask my my workout lesbian friend who was married to a man.
So, I mean, I have experience doing this, so maybe that's just something maybe Orwell experience being inside his head exercising. So maybe he put some of himself into that, or...
Yeah. I remember you messaged me that you were taking a run one time and you kept thinking about me and you had a boner flopping around.
Yeah. My heart rate was fucking going.
Oh, yeah?
To be able to run with a fucking heart on. Was
it too much blood? Did you get lightheaded, or you got plenty of blood to go around?
I had plenty of blood.
Okay. Strapping young lad with plenty of blood for both brains.
I was a Super Saiyan incel.
Yes.
He sinks things. Okay, so, to know and not to know. To be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies. To hold simultaneously two options which canceled out. Knowing them to be contradictory. And being in both of them. To use logic against logic. To repudiate morality while laying claim to it. To believe that democracy was impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy.
Jesus.
To forget whatever it was necessary to forget, then to draw it back into memory again at the moment it was needed.
To what end? Just because of the party? But he hates the party, so why would he... I don't know.
To survive.
Yeah, he's just trying to... He's just... Blame the pimp, not the game. What is that saying?
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah. Don't hate the players that play the game, that make the game more unplayable for everyone else.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Take people responsibility out of it. Then promptly to forget it again, and above all to apply the same process to the process itself. It was the ultimate subtlety, consciously to induce unconsciousness, and then once again to become unconscious of the act of hypnosis you had just performed.
So why have a book? Why go write his memories in a journal? Contradictions, fuck it, who cares, right?
To do something that is against what he's normally doing. Even to understand the word doublethink involved the use of doublethink. The instructionist had called them to attention again. And now let's see which of us can touch our toes, she said enthusiastically. Right over from the hips, please, comrades. 1, 2, 1, 2. Winston loathed this exercise, which sent shooting pains all the way from his heels to his buttocks, and often ended by bringing on another coughing fit. The half-pleasant quality went out of his meditations. The past, he reflected, had not merely been altered, but it had actually been destroyed.
No, it hasn't. Again, somebody using the word "actually" inappropriately. What a strange sighting.
For how you could establish even the most obvious fact when there existed no reason outside your own memory? He tried to remember in what year he had first heard the mention of Big Brother. He thought it must have been sometime in the 60s, but it was impossible to be certain. In the party histories, of course, Big Brother figured as the leader and guardian of the revolution since the very earliest days. His exploits had been gradually pushed backwards in time until already they extended into the fabulous world of the 40s and the 30s, when the capitalists in their strangely cylindrical hats still rode through the streets of London, in great gleaming motor cars or horse carriages with glass sides. There was no knowing how much of the legend was true and how much invented.
Because Big Brother hadn't told me in this instance?
Yeah. Winston could not even remember at what date the party itself had come into existence. He did not believe he had ever heard the word ingsoc before 1960. But it was impossible in its old speak form, English socialism, that is to say, it had been current earlier. Everything melted into mist. Sometimes, indeed, you could put your finger on a definite lie. It was not true, for example, as it was claimed in the party history books, that the party had invented airplanes. He remembered airplanes since his earliest childhood, but you could prove nothing.
Is it because he's in pain now? Or he's in more pain than he was before? That now all of a sudden, even though the party said they invented planes, they didn't invent planes because he remembered. But there's plenty of other things that he remembered that he's like, well, I remember this and I am told this and I just have to fight myself. But now he's not fighting himself.
No, he's fighting the party.
Interesting.
But you could prove nothing. There was never any evidence. Just one in his whole life. He had held in his hands unmistakable documentary proof of the falsification of a historical fact. On that occasion, "Smith!" screamed the shrewish voice from the telescreen. 6079 Smith, W. Yes, you. Bend lower, please.
No!
You could do better than that. You're not trying. Lower, please. That's better, comrade. Now stand at ease, the whole squad, and watch me. A sudden hot...
Look what I could do. Oh.
Suddenly, hot sweat had broken out all over Winston's body. His face remained completely inscrutable. Never showing dismay. Never show resentment. A single flicker of eyes could give you away. He stood watching while the instructionist raised her arms above her head, and one could not say gracefully, but with remarkable neatness and efficiency, bend over and tucked her first joint of her fingers under her toes. There, comrades, that's how I want to see you doing it. Watch me again. I'm 39, and I've had 4 children. Now look. She bent over again.
It just probably means she's more limber, right? Because her bones have been stretched.
I'm sure she has, because she is a physical person, she probably gets a little more treatment.
Yeah, she has her job. That's her job, so she probably practices.
Yeah, she's not behind the teletyper like Winston.
Oy.
She probably gets some sort of medical treatment if she develops some ulcer thing on her fucking foot.
Yeah. She's got to be top party, or top-ish party, top middle, because she has 4 kids.
Yeah. You see, my knees aren't bent. You can all do it if you want to, she added as she straightened herself up.
So if I don't want... What happens if I don't want to? You can't not want to.
Yeah, you gotta lie. You can all do it if you want to, she added as she straightened herself up. Anyone under 45 is perfectly capable of touching his toes. We don't all have the privilege of fighting in the front line, but at least we can all keep fit. Remember our boys on the Malabar front and the sailors in the floating fortress. Just think that they have to put up with. Now try again. That's better, comrade. That's much better, she added encouragingly as Winston, with a violent lunge, succeeded in touching his toes with knees unbent for the first time in several years.
Great motivation.
Oh, and that's the end of the chapter. That was a short one again.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Should we keep going?
It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do a little bit more.
Okay.
With deep, unconscious sigh, which not even the nearest of the telescreen could prevent him from uttering when his day's work started, Winston pulled the speak right toward him, blew the dust from his mouthpiece, and put on his spectacles. He then unrolled and clipped together 4 small cylinders of paper, which had already flopped out of the pneumatic tube on the right-hand side of his desk. In the walls of the cubicle, there were 3 orifices. Ooh. To the right of the speak right, a small pneumatic tube for written messages. To the left, a larger one for newspapers. And in the side wall, within easy reach of Winston's arm, was a large oblong slit protected by wire grating. This last was for the disposal of waste paper. Similar to slits existing in thousands or tens of thousands throughout the building, not only in every room, but at short intervals in every corridor. For some reason, they were nicknamed memory holes. When one knew that any document was due for destruction, or even when one saw a scrap of waste paper lying around, it was an automatic action to lift up the flap of the nearest memory hole and drop it in, whereupon it would be whirled away on a current of warm air to the enormous furnace, which were hidden somewhere in the recesses of the building. It's opposite. Oh, stick in your memory hole. But it just gets wiped out of your memory.
Yeah, well, it's a hole for memories to be burned. They could use that fire to be warm, probably. But it's somewhere dark in some deep recesses, and everybody's cold all the time, even though they're burning paper.
That's communism for you.
Inefficiency is efficiency.
Winston examined the 4 slips of paper which he had unrolled. Each contained a message of only 1 or 2 lines in abbreviated jargon, not usually newspeak, but consistently large of newspeak words, which was used in the ministry for internal purposes. They ran: Times 17.3.84 BB speech malreported Africa rectify. Times 19.12.83 forecast 3YP fourth quarter 83 misprints verify current issue.
Why can that be efficient, but they can't do anything else efficiently? It's a little weird, right? Because you just have to read that and know they don't tell you how to rectify it.
Yeah.
They just go, replace this. From what I remember.
Yeah.
Unless it's something specific, like get rid of this person, make up a new person.
Yeah. They've been vaporized. Times 14.2.84 Mini Plenty malquoted chocolate rectify. Times 3.12.83 reporting BB day order double plus ungood refs unpersons rewrite full wise up sub anti-filling. With a faint feeling of satisfaction, Winston laid the 4th message aside. It was an intricate and responsible job and had better be dealt with last. The other 3 were routine matters, though the second one would probably mean some tedious wading through lists of figures. Winston dialed back numbers on the telescreen and called for the appropriate issue of the Times, which slid out of the pneumatic tube only after a few minutes' delay. The messages he had received referred to articles or news items which, for one reason or another, it was thought necessary to alter, or as the official phrase had it, to rectify. For example, it appeared from the Times of the 17th of March that Big Brother, as I think BB, if we're gonna, so March 17th, that's 17.3.84, that was the first message. BB speech malreported, Africa rectify. So Big Brother said something in a speech
that was reported.
It was something
bad.
About Africa. It was something he meant Africa. It was, and he meant Eurasia or something. We'll find out. It appeared from the Times on the 17th of March that
there is no more Africa. Everything is divided into Eurasia, the other one, and Oceania, or whatever it is.
Or those are the countries that's still in.
We find maybe we find something else out about that, but I don't think so. I think it's all.
I think it mentions Africa again here.
Okay.
It appeared from the Times of 17th of March that Big Brother, in his speech of the previous day, had predicted that the South Indian Front would remain quiet, but that a Eurasian offensive would shortly be launched in North Africa. As it happened, the Eurasian High Command had launched its offensive in South India and left North Africa alone. It was therefore necessary to rewrite a paragraph of Big Brother's speech in such a way as to make him predict that the thing that had actually happened. Or again, the Times of the 19th of December had published the official forecast of an output of various classes of consumption goods in the fourth quarter of 1983.
And that gets printed with paper, right?
Yeah.
Who's reading these papers? Is it just a place for this information to exist?
Yeah, what? They just keep fucking...
They're not changing, like, oh, we're telling you that we said this, but we meant this. You know, like the New York Times or some shit does. They're not correcting it, they're undoing it.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be.
What's the point of holding on to those things?
If nobody's reading that shit. It's just to make it more true, to
give people something to do. What is
just
the point?
Gives people something to do.
To watch over them, so
it's more to brainwash Winston than it is to brainwash the masses.
Seems like it.
More to brainwash the person who's going to be receiving his changes than it is the masses.
Yeah, what, the proles are going to a records place? The people in the party don't give a fuck about the thing because it changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, hold on, I need to go back 14 days. What did the record say?
Yeah, they know the game, so it doesn't matter. They're just trying to smoke as many cigars as they can until they die. Drink as much of the good victory, the victory vodka. Or whatever, the victory wine?
I don't quite remember.
I know he's got something better than victory gin, O'Brien does.
Yeah. All right. Today's issue contained a statement of the actual output, from which it had appeared that the forecasts were every instance grossly wrong. Winston's job was to rectify the original figures by making them agree with the later ones. As for the third message, it referred to a very simple error which could be set right in a couple minutes. as a short time ago as February, the Ministry of Plenty had issued a promise, a categorical pledge, were the official words, that there would be no reduction of chocolate rationing during 1984. Actually, as Winston was aware, the chocolate ration was to be reduced from 30 grams to 20 at the end of the present week. All that was needed was to substitute for the original promise a warning that it would probably be necessary to reduce the rations at some point in April. It's interesting that we're going to have to do this, not that it never happened. You only had 20. I wonder...
You've always had.
Yeah. But those things that make people feel good, people probably hold on to that shit a little more tightly than some fucking bullshit.
Just like Winston when he took his family's chocolate rations and fucking ran away.
As soon as Winston had dealt with each of these messages, he clipped his speak-written corrections to the appropriate copy of the Times and pushed them into the pneumatic tube. Then, with a moment which was as nearly as possible unconscious, he crumpled up the original message and any notes he had himself had made, and dropped them into the memory hole to be devoured by the flames. What happened in the unseen labyrinth to which the pneumatic tubes led, he did not know in detail, but he did know in general terms. As soon as all the corrections which happened to be necessary in any particular number of the Times had been assembled and collated, the number would be reprinted, and the original copy destroyed, and the corrected copy placed in the files in its stead. This process of continuous alteration was applied not only to newspapers, but to books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, leaflets, films, soundtracks, cartoons, photographs, to every kind of literature or documentation which might conceivably hold any political or ideological significance. Day to day, and almost minute by minute, the past was brought up to date. In this way,
past is brought up to date.
Yeah. Changed. Trying to make the past the present. Living somewhere where you ain't. Got some of that tea, wife.
That hurts my brain to even try to say the words to describe how wrong that is. The past is not supposed to be updated. It's the present that should be updated to discern it from the past, so that there's a progression instead of a regression. All they're doing is suppression. Is there just ration?
How much ration we got?
Regression, oh wait, maybe they're just different words. Never mind. I went on a tangent. It doesn't matter.
What's happened here? I lost my page. They all day by day and almost minute by minute, the past was brought up to date. In this way, every prediction made by the party could be shown by documentary evidence to have been correct, nor was any item of news or any expression of opinion which conflicted with the needs of the moment ever allowed to remain on record. All history was palimpsest.
Palimpsest?
P-A-L-I-M P-S-E-S-T.
Huh.
Weird ass word.
I don't know if I even remember as being well. Palimpsest? Palimpsest.
Palimpsest?
Do you want to look that up since you were looking up what a dyke is or dace, whatever?
Dace. And a tunic.
And a tunic. P-A-L...
I-N-P-E-S-T.
Nope.
Nope.
S-E-S-T.
The shit? Why did I go on?
I don't know, because you didn't press enter. Great job. S. Palimpsest. Novel.
What does this mean?
Reused manuscript with visible prior text. So that might have happened at some point because, you know, scrolls don't grow from trees.
Yeah.
They kind of do, or some sort of natural fibers, but you have to, like, buy them, and sometimes if you conquer someplace, I can just wash this scroll, write my new shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the palimpsest is reused paper material with visible prior text.
Scrapped clean and reinscribed exactly as often was necessary. In no case would it have been possible, once the deed was done, to prove that any falsification had taken place. The largest section of the records department, far larger than the one in which Winston worked, consisted simply of persons whose duty it was to track down and collect all copies of books, newspapers, and other documents which had been superseded and were due for destruction. A number of the times which might, because of changes in political alignment or mistaken prophecies uttered by Big Brother, have been rewritten a dozen times, still stood in the files bearing its original date, and no other copy existed to contradict it. Books also were recalled and rewritten again and again, and were invariably reissued without any admission that any alteration had been made. Even the written instruction which Winston received, and which he invariably got rid of as soon as he had dealt with them, never stated or implied that an act of forgery was to be committed. Always the reference was to slips, errors, misprints, misquotations, which it was necessary to put right in the interest of accuracy.
There's another place where you can't really tell what perspective Orwell is writing in because he used the word forgery. So is that Winston's thoughts? Is that his thoughts? Is that his thoughts as someone who exists in 1984?
Yeah, because unless for the people who were born into the party, there's no such thing as forgery.
No.
I would think.
Well, they probably forge, like, all these lies and slanders from the enemy. But to claim that two things can be true at the same time in the same day that you call this act of of history being erased as forgery just seems... Well, he said contradictions are fine, right? So that's chaos. Da 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 da.
And that's okay, except. But actually, he thought.
Actually.
Yeah. Your favorite. He thought he was readjusted. He thought as he readjusted the Ministry of Plenty's figures, it was not even forgery. It was merely the substitution of one piece of nonsense for another.
Well, I answered my question.
Most of the material that you were dealing with had no connection with anything in the real world. Not even the kind of connection that is contained in a direct lie. Statistics were just as much a fantasy in their original version as their rectified version. a great deal of time you were expected to make them up out of your head. For example, the Ministry of Plenty's forecast had estimated the output of boots for the quarter at 145 million pairs. The actual output was given as 62 million. Winston, however, in rewriting the forecast, marked the figure down to 57 millions, so as to allow for the usual claim that the quota had been overfilled. In any case, 62 millions was no nearer the truth than 57 millions, or than 145 millions. Very likely no boots had been produced at all. Likelier still, nobody knew how many had been produced, much less cared. All one knew is that every quarter, astronomical number of boots were produced on paper. Well, perhaps half the population of Oceania was barefoot.
Wow.
So you don't even get to see the boots? Oh shit.
What do you mean?
Like all these things were, I thought, at least, that's something you can see outside yourself. Oh, we made all these boots, and they can, like the 2 + 2 is 5 thing.
Yeah.
But they're just, I guess they're doing that, but more extreme. There's all these fucking boots. Nobody's got fucking boots. Nobody's seen these fucking boots.
Why would they have to? Everything's chaos and a contradiction. Why do I have to show you that I love you if I feel it in my heart? Am I right, fellas?
You're very right, wife. And so it was with every class of recorded fact, great or small. Everything faded away into a shadow world in which finally even the date of the year had become uncertain. Winston glanced across the hall. In the corresponding cubicle on the other side, a small, precise-looking, dark-chinned man named Tillotson was working steadily away, with a folded newspaper on his knee and his mouth very close to the mouthpiece of the speakwrite. He had the air of trying to keep what he was saying a secret between himself and the telescreen. He looked up, and his spectacles darted in a hostile flash in Winston's direction. Winston hardly knew Tillotson, and he had no idea what work he was employed on. People in the records departments did not really talk about their jobs.
Did anybody talk about anything?
I don't think so.
Is there any instance where people really talk about much, except when he meets Julia, or when they speak a little bit at the lunch table, which inevitably leads to the Tillman getting unpersoned?
Maybe at social, maybe there is something, because they have to go to social events. The guys, I'm part of the physical committee, and you meet me at the community center and shit. So maybe there's some state-led things, that that's where people talk, but they don't talk about the things they want to talk about, I think.
Or they don't have the desire to talk about anything good, because it could lead to something bad.
Yeah. In the long, windowless hall, it was... in the long, windowless hall, with its double row of cubicles and its endless rustle of papers and hum of voices murmuring into speakrites, there were quite a dozen people whom Winston did not even know by name, though he daily saw them hurrying to and fro in the corridors or gesticulating into the 2 minutes hate. He knew that in the cubicle next to him, the little woman with sandy hair toiled day in, day out, simply tracking down and deleting from the press the names of people who had been vaporized and were therefore considered never to have existed. There was a certain fitness in this, since her own husband had been vaporized a couple years earlier.
What are you
Did
thinking
she,
about?
a question, the words to form what I'm trying to say? Does she get to hurt? How did she process that? What part of her human self is there, and what part is she hypnotized?
It probably all goes into the 2-minute hate. There's probably a numb, a confusion. Because did she really love him to begin with? How old is she?
Does she even get to remember him? Because can't talk about him. He's vaporized. He never existed.
Do they have children? Who's the father of those children? Grr.
That's fucking brutal. There was certain fitness. A few cubicles away, a mild, ineffectual, dreamy creature named Ampleforth, with very hairy ears and a surprising talent for juggling rhymes and meters, was engaged in producing garbled versions. Definitive text, they were called. It's garbled, and they call it definitive.
That sounds like everything now. There's an Ampleforth College.
In Yorkshire.
Verily.
So definitive texts, they were called, of poems which had become ideologically offensive, but which for one reason or another were to be retained in the anthologies. So they could still be, it could be considered offensive. I guess Big Brother just says, hold on to this.
What do you mean?
It's considered offensive. So usually things that are offensive, it's against Big Brother, so they get annihilated. They get altered. But this gets held on to.
Oh, to probably be used as an example?
Maybe.
Just like not Big Brother, Goldstein.
Yeah.
He's probably offensive, and they have a whole week or something, hate week for him.
Shark Week. I hate Shark Week. I want a Shark Hate Week. And this hall, with its 50 workers or thereabouts, was only one subsection, a single cell, as it were, in the huge complexity of the records department. Beyond, above, below, were other swarms of workers engaged in unimaginable multitude of jobs. There were the huge printing shops with their sub-editors, their typography experts, their elaboratively equipped studios for faking of photographs. There was the teleprogram section with its engineers, its producers, and its teams of actors specially chosen for their skill in imitating voices. There were armies of reference clerks whose job was simply to drop lists of books and periodicals which were all due for recall. There were vast repositories where the corrected documents were stored, and the hidden furnaces where the original copies were destroyed. And somehow or another, quite anonymous, there were the directing brains who coordinated the whole effort and laid down the lines of policy which made it necessary that this fragment of the past should be preserved, that one falsified, and that one rubbed out of existence. And the records department, after all, was itself only a single branch of the Ministry of Truth, whose primary job was not to reconstruct the past, but to supply the citizens of Oceania with newspapers, films, textbooks, telescreen programs, plays, novels, with every conceivable kind of information, instruction, or entertainment, from a statue to a slogan, from a lyric poem to a biological treaty, and from a child's spelling book to a Newspeak dictionary. And the ministry had not only to supply the multifarious needs of the party, but also to repeat the whole operation at a lower level for the benefit of the proletariat. There was a whole chain of separate departments dealing with the proletariat literature, music, drama, and entertainment generally. Here were produced rubbishly newspapers containing almost nothing except sports, crime, and astrology, sensational 5-cent novelettes, films oozing with sex, and sentimental songs which are composed entirely by mechanical means on a special kind of kaleidoscope known as a versafactor. There was even a whole subsection, pornosec, as it was called in Newspeak, engaged in producing the lowest kind of pornography, which was sent out in sealed packets which no party member other than those who worked on it was permitted to look at.
So they're just there to be bait, I guess? The pornos?
Yeah. Oh, no, this is for the proletariat. The proletariat can have other things.
Oh. Jeez, okay.
But unless you work for the porno polices, you shouldn't be looking at porno.
What a load of shit.
3 messages had slid out of the pneumatic tube while Winston was working. But they were simple matters, and he had disposed of them before the 2 minutes hate interrupted him. When the hate was over, he returned to his cubicle, took the Newspeak dictionary from the shelf, pushed the speak right to one side, cleaned his spectacles, and settled down to his main job of the morning. Winston's greatest pleasure in life was in his work. Most of it was a tedious routine, but included in it were also jobs so difficult and intricate that you could lose yourself in them as in the depths of a mathematical problem. Delicate pieces of forgery in which you had nothing to guide you except your knowledge of the principles of ingsoc and your estimate of what the party wanted you to say. Winston was good at this kind of thing. On occasion, he had even been entrusted with the rectification of the Times' leading articles, which were written entirely in Newspeak. He unrolled the message that he had set aside earlier. It ran, Times 3.12.83, reporting BB day order double plus ungood. Refs unperson rewrite full wise up sub anti-filling. In Old Speak, or Standard English, this might be rendered, the reporting of Big Brother's order for the day in the Times of December 3rd, 1983 is extremely unsatisfactory and makes reference to a non-existent persons. Rewrite it in full and submit your draft to higher authority before filing. Winston read through the offending article. Big Brother's order of the day, it seemed, had been chiefly devoted to praising the work of an organization known as the FFCC, which supplied cigarettes and other comforts to the sailors in the floating fortress. A certain Comrade Withers, a prominent member of the inner party, had been singled out for special mention and awarded a decoration, the Order of Conspicuous Merit, 2nd class. 3 months later, the FFCC had suddenly been dissolved with no reason given. One could assume that Withers and his associates were now in disgrace, and there had been no report of the matter in the press or on the telescreen. That was to be expected, since it was unusual for political offenders to be put on trial or even publicly denounced. The great purges involving thousands of people, with public trials of traitors and thought criminals who made abject confessions of their crimes and were afterwards executed, were special showpieces not occurring oftener than once in a couple years. More commonly, people who had incurred the displeasure of the party simply disappeared and were never heard of again. One never had the smallest clue as to what had happened to them. In some cases, they might not even be dead. Perhaps 30 people personally known to Winston, not counting his parents, had disappeared at one time or another. Oh, we got some.
No, don't even.
Oh, don't.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
Talk about it later.
Okay.
It's distracting me. It's aggravating me. I'm trying not to pay attention to it.
Gotcha.
It makes no. Sorry. Keep going.
Would you?
Where are we?
The new paragraph here, wife.
Okay. What, are you going to look at it now?
Okay. No. No.
What?
No. Keep going, baby.
Winston stroked his nose gently with a paperclip. In the cubicle across the way, Comrade Tillotson was still crouching secretively over his speakwrite. He raised his head for a moment. Again, the hostile spectacle flash. Winston wondered whether Comrade Tillotson was engaged on the same job as himself. It was perfectly possible. So tricky a piece of work would never be entrusted by to a single person. On the other hand, to turn it over to a committee... Could I have some milk while you're...
You got it, baby.
You erased it? I wanted to tell you why it bothered me. Now I don't have the information. On the other hand, to turn it over to a committee would be to admit openly that an act of fabrication was taking place. Very likely, as many as a dozen people were now working away on rival versions of what Big Brother had actually said. And presently, some monster brain in the inner party would select this version or that, would re-edit it and set it in motion, the complex processes of cross-referencing that would be required. And then the chosen lie would pass into permanent records and become truth. Not necessarily. Winston did not know why Withers had been disgraced. Perhaps it was for corruption or incompetence. Perhaps Big Brother was merely getting rich of a too popular subordinate. Perhaps Withers or someone close to him had been suspected of heretical tendencies. Or perhaps, what was the likeliest of all, the thing had simply happened because purges and vaporizations were a necessary part of the mechanics of government. The only real clue lay in the words refs on persons, which indicated that Withers was already dead. You could not invariably assume this to be the case when people were arrested. Sometimes they were released and allowed to remain at liberty for as much as a year or 2 years before being executed. Very occasionally, some persons whom had believed dead long since would make a ghostly reappearance at some public trial where he would implicate hundreds of others by his testimony before vanishing. This time forever. Are you paying attention to the thing that I said let's just can I bitch about later? You're examining it and doing all this stuff when...
God, okay. Sorry, wife.
What was I just talking about?
I'm sorry. I just saw on the screen that...
So you don't... What was I just talking about? You don't remember? You weren't listening?
No.
That's what I was like, let's worry about it fucking later.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you point me into where we were?
I don't know, I wasn't paying attention.
Withers, however, was already an unperson. He did not exist. He had never existed. Winston decided that it would not be enough to simply reverse the tendency of Big Brother's speech. It was better to make it deal with something totally unconnected with its original subject. He might turn the speech into the usual denunciation of traitors and thought criminals, but that was a little too obvious. While to invent a victory at the front or some triumph of overproduction in the ninth 3-year plan might complicate the records too much. What was needed was a piece of pure fantasy. Suddenly there sprang into his mind, ready-made as if it were, the image of a certain comrade Ogilvy, who had recently died in battle, a heroic circumstance. There were occasions when Big Brother devoted his order of the day to commemorate some humble, rank-and-file party member whose life and death he held up as an example worthy to be followed. Today he should commemorate Comrade Ogilvy. It was true that there was no such person as Comrade Ogilvy, but a few lines of print and a couple of faked photographs would soon bring him into existence.
Just like that one guy from China, they're heroic, the most comradiest of comrades that they talk about. The stories of him being the best army person.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that they had fictionalized.
They don't even need to do that shit. You just make a comic book, Superman. There you go. He's all American.
Winston thought for a moment, then pulled up the news right towards him and began dictating in Big Brother's familiar style. A style at once military and pedantic, had become a trick of asking questions and then promptly answering them. What lessons do we learn from this fact, comrades? The lessons, which is also one of the fundamental principles of ingsoc, that, etc., etc., easy to imitate. At the age of 3, Comrade Ogilvy had refused all toys except a drum, a submachine gun, and a model helicopter. At 6, a year early, by a special relaxation of the rules, he had joined the spies. At 9, he had been a troop leader. At 11, he had denounced his uncle to the thought police after overhearing a conversation which appeared to him to have criminal tendencies. At 17, he had been a district organizer of the Junior Anti-Sex League. At 19, he had designed a hand grenade which had been adopted by the Ministry of Peace and which, at its first trial, killed 31 Eurasian prisoners in one burst. At 23, he had perished in action, pursued by enemy jet planes while flying over the Indian Ocean with important dispatches. He had weighed his body with a submachine gun and leapt out of the helicopter into deep water, dispatches and all. An end, said Big Brother, which was impossible to contemplate without feelings of envy. Big Brother added a few remarks on the purity and single-mindedness of Comrade Ogilvy's life. He was a total abstainer and a non-smoker. He had no recreations except a daily hour in the gymnasium and had taken a vow of celibacy, believing the marriage and the care of family to be incompatible with a 24-hour-a-day devotion to duty. He had no subjects of conversation except the principles of ingsoc, and no aim in life except to defeat the Eurasian enemy and the hunting down of spies, saboteurs, thought criminals, and traitors generally. Winston debated with himself whether to award Comrade Ogilvy the Order of Conspicuous Merit. and in the end decided against it because of the unnecessary cross-referencing it would entail. Once again, he glanced at his rival in the opposite cubicle. Something seemed to tell him with certainty that Tillotson was busy on the same job as himself. There was no way of knowing whose version would finally be adopted.
He probably just makes shit up all the time. I mean, he's wrong about O'Brien, he's wrong about Julia. So, what do you mean, no doubt he's doing something?
Yeah, what's his...
I wonder what the reason, I guess just to show how wrong Winston is about everything.
Definitely shows his his narrow-mindedness.
His chaotic mindedness, I think.
Yeah. He jumped in there and just fucking tunnel vision. Sure, he's got to be working. There's no other thing he could be doing.
Well, I think he's just imaginating, and the imagination is not that narrow. I don't know. It's all perspective. That's what the truth is, right? It's all perspective. Whatever culture you belong to,
relative.
You have a different truth. Ugh.
Winston, did that one. Once again, he glanced at his rival in the opposite cubicle. Something seemed to tell him with certainty that Tillotson was busy on the same job as himself. There was no way of knowing whose version would finally be adopted, but he felt a profound conviction that would be his own.
There's no way of knowing anything when contradictions can just be splayed freaking wherever.
Comrade Ogilvy, unimagined an hour ago, was now a fact. It struck him as curious that you could create dead men.
It wasn't unimagined. Well, that's just the words that they use. I'm sorry. Just the way that it just unimagined. He hadn't yet been imagined. You can't, it's not reverse before it happened.
Yeah.
Just like unpersoned. It had to have been a person first.
Yeah, there's a directionality to it, and that's not its right direction. That's not its...
Even the way Orwell writes sometimes is maddening. It's like, what direction am I supposed to be looking in? And then I just get frustrated about things that I know he's gonna say because he wrote it deliberately. Okay.
It struck him as curious that you could create dead men, but not living ones. Comrade Ogilvy, who had never existed in the present, now existed in the past. And when once an act of forgery was forgotten, he would exist just as authentically and upon the same evidence as Charlemagne or Julius Caesar.
Can you read that last part again? There was a specific word that he used that I wanted to... They existed just as authentically?
Yeah. He would exist just as authentically and upon the same evidence as Charlemagne or Julius Caesar.
So he has no feelings for the truth of being alive because there's a power that can erase that from people's memories, but not erase it from happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now it's chapter 5. I think this might be a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Shit, we blew through 2 chapters. We got through them and had some talks along the way.
The last chapter was mostly just a peek into Winston's job. And the chaos that the way Orwell, I feel, is writing is bringing you into that same chaos. Where contradictions can exist and both be true.
Yeah.
Or either be true whenever the party says so, and I'm feeling its effects.
It definitely, I think, has like a rocking back and forth. Whoa, 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 and in order for you to follow,
you almost have to. It's best, I think, to say things out loud in response to, like when he said that he was unpersoned or unimagined before,
an hour ago.
Stuff like that. It's best to talk a little bit about while it's happening to keep your own. You don't want to get sucked into 1984 reading 1984.
Yeah, you end up in the 2 minutes hate before you fucking know it.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we learn?
Well, there's still a lot going on that is resembling 1984.
Chapter 4 and 5
Winston.
were kind of similar and different at the same time. He hates working out because he's in physical pain, and that's when he's like, the truth exists wherever the fuck the party says. Contradictions are okay. And then when he goes to his job to erase the truth, he gets a little closer to the truth, talking about forgery, talking about being unimagined and not existing in the present ever, but still being able to exist in the past.
He gets pleasure out of it.
He takes pride in his work.
Yeah.
But he doesn't take pride in his body because his body works against him. He smokes, he drinks. There's
got that ulcer thing on his ankle.
Yeah. He wants to control things in his mind because there's some sort of satisfaction in that. That if he can control his mind and erase history from his mind the way Big Brother wants to, somehow he's stronger. But yet when referencing his outside self, the good distinction between inside self and outside self, he seems to be more bitter, but he was contemplative and curious and focused, where he wasn't focused thinking about his ankle or thinking about being in pain and thinking about all the things that O'Brien will inevitably do to him.
Yeah.
There's this getting lost in pain that happens to Winston, and it happens a lot. It becomes very prevalent, and getting focused in pleasure, and then his pleasure's changing, and looking forward to chapter 6.
Yeah. Me too, wife. I really enjoy doing this with you.
I always enjoy reading with you.
Okay. Till next time.
Love you.
Love you, miss you, baby. Bye.
What the hell are you missing me?